Can downtown Portland be saved? For Portland developers, real estate developers, downtown commercial developers, they have plans. That's what we're going to talk about. Let's get into it. Let's see what the downtown Portland deal is. Here we go. Before we jump on in, love to have you subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Also, don't hesitate to check out our members only section, reasonabletv.com. Just released a story there. News crew in Portland, just like this story, witnesses shooting at homeless encampment while on site recording a different story. They show up, shooting happens. That's all right there on members only. That's content you're not going to find anywhere else. You won't want to miss it. Back to our regular scheduled program. Leaders agree. Time to act is now. Haven't we been saying that forever? It's time to do something. Got to do something. It's Mayor Ted. Mayor Ted's always saying that, isn't he? 4 people involved in major property development downtown: Homer Williams, Patrick Gilligan, Jim Mark, and Vanessa Sturgeon speak out on what people can see with their own eyes. The heart of Portland is in crisis. But this story doesn't just look at the problems. KOIN 6 News also looks at their suggested solutions and their reasons for optimism. In conversation with these developers and with Mayor Ted Wheeler, one thing is clear. The time to act is now, and there are things that are moving forward. Well, yeah, I'd say there's things moving forward as well, but they're not going in the right direction. They're going in the wrong direction. I'm going to give you a little spoiler alert. This article is written from more of a real estate aspect of anything, but what is driving the trends in these downtown cores is also going to impact residential housing. Now, we're going to hear Portland talk about, we don't have enough housing in downtown Portland. That's our real issue. Is that really the issue in downtown Portland? Not enough housing? Nah, it's all the craziness and shenanigans going on in downtown Portland that are keeping businesses away, and they'll keep people away from wanting to live there as well. It's just basic stuff. People don't want to go and live where they've got people living in homeless encampments, people on drugs, crazy people doing crazy stuff, meth labs in tents, needles in the sidewalk, human excrement on the sidewalk. They don't want to live in that type of environment. So, which is fair enough. I think that's fair enough. Patrick Gilligan with Lincoln Property Company said he thinks there's just a lack of sense of urgency coming from government officials. All right. I would say no, there's definitely a sense of urgency. Leadership in Portland does not know what to do. They are overrun. The addiction issues and the mental incapacity of people on said drugs are overrunning them. Criminal activity is overrunning the city of Portland. You don't have enough cops. Keep the city safe. Literally, you've got, one of my podcasts earlier today was the Nike store that shut down abruptly last fall because criminal activity, and they had one of the highest rates of shoplifting from Nike store in Portland in the country. They shut it down super quick and they said, we're going to be gone for 7 weeks. Yeah, max. Well, we'll be back though. They are literally requesting from the city of Portland that they enter into a security partnership agreement, meaning the city of Portland is specifically going to give them their own security force, whatever that might be, their own security regime, whatever that might be, so that they feel more safe selling Nike goods in Portland. Now, so there's a lack of urgency coming from government officials. No, government officials know that this is urgent because their city, Portland, is literally tanking as we speak. And we're going to go through some of the items here that indicate, hey, you're in a dire situation. This is not, this is not child's play where some, right of center podcaster is like, it's all going to hell. It's all happening now. No, this is business. This is numbers. This is real estate. This is rent. This is occupancy. It's hard numbers. So what do we got going on? Oh, we've got some shenanigans. Let's keep going. Jim Mark with Melvin Mark Brokerage Companies said it's also a community mindset. Unfortunately, right now, I think we have too much naysaying. How can't we do it? Well, I think the folks that are in Portland that are doing the naysaying, they have been saying, hey, we hope it gets better, but we're at that point where we're ready to leave. And you know what the business is? Almost half of them are saying already is we don't want to be here. We're not going to have our people here. We're not going to have our employees here. So Vanessa Sturgeon with TMT Development said, I definitely think downtown Portland is savable. All right. That's an opinion, and it's been awesome in the past, but moving forward, how are you going to get there? According to analysts for the mayor's office, this is Mayor Ted, Portland's Central Business District accounts for almost 3/4 of all gross income produced in the city. 3/4 of all gross income. Remember that. But another recent study said Portland's downtown is one of the slowest to recover compared to other large cities. I podcasted on that, and it was ranked 60th out of 62 big cities based on the activity of cell phone usage in downtown Portland. So how many people you got running around with cell phones? And we know that through cell phone statistics. So downtown Portland, you just don't have a lot of people running around. The problems plaguing downtown Portland show up as empty storefronts. The current vacancy rate for commercial buildings is about 27%, which was initially spurred by how technology changed the way people work and shop. All right. So other cities have gotten to this same problem too, where, hey, we got a lot of people working remotely. San Francisco being a big example. But you've got the same stuff going on in San Francisco as you do in Portland, meaning people don't want to deal with literally the crap on the sidewalk in downtown Portland or San Francisco. Businesses don't want to pay taxes. They don't want to contribute to this. They don't want to be there. So why would normal human beings, wanting to live in a condo or an apartment in downtown Portland, why would they want to live there either? They wouldn't. And so with businesses dwindling the way they are, it's crazy, right? So initially it was because, the cities aren't, able to pull their people back into the downtown cores. Well, some of them, especially more than others. And from what I'm told, I haven't been to Portland in a while, but the number of boarded up storefronts in Portland are pretty crazy. It's not a good look, to the point where there's some back and forth. The police department, I think, is it Central Precinct, has been told, hey, you got to take the wood off all of your windows because, those pesky Rose City Antifa, they just like to take hammers to the windows on the police department. So annoying. But the police department, since, the whole George Floyd thing, they've had wood on their windows. And well, now the mayor is saying, nope, you can take it off. Or he's demanding they take it off because they probably don't want to. Because how many times do you want to have to fix your windows being bashed in by a bunch of lunatic anarchists? Now, there's that whole thing as well, right? So you got homelessness, you got drug addicts, you don't have a lot of people working in these buildings. Yeah. So it happened quickly, Mark said. It's been happening for 10 years. This is a slow road to down into the depths of hell. This is a slow road because this kind of thing doesn't happen to a downtown core overnight. But the pandemic really put the turbo on it, right? Just, we're going to speed this process up a little bit. Melvin Mark Brokerage Company has 1/3 of its buildings in downtown Portland. He and other property managers know the vacancy rate is misleading. That doesn't include, so the 27-28% doesn't include shadow vacancy, Sturgeon said. Shadow vacancy is leases ending an office space that's not being used. She believes the vacancy rate will get worse. So there's probably 40%. We're probably headed to a number closer to 40% in the next 18 months. Williams echoed that thought. Ultimately, the bank will have to take it back. Homer Williams was a driving force behind the Pearl District and the South Waterfront. We will see, I think this year, office buildings being auctioned off. Auctioned off. We already saw a couple of major hotels that were having a tough time. I podcasted on those. Now their foreclosure sales got pushed off. Investor came in, whatever it was. There's always, it's not until things get super, super dire and desperate, which we're saying could happen very well in the next 18 months. Could this start happening in 2024? Now, if you got 40% vacancy rates, that means there's a lot of tenants not paying these landlords for all this space that's sitting around. 40%? That's where I come up with that number. It's damn near, half of your buildings are unoccupied. And those are not sustainable numbers for a downtown real estate market. It's already the reality, Sturgeon said. I mean, we have 20% of downtown Portland is in foreclosure or pre-foreclosure at this point. So that's an interesting number right there. 20% of downtown Portland is on it's on the ropes. Going to do a little rope-a-dope, but we're on the ropes, and they've been on the ropes for a while. There aren't big businesses coming in to Portland to make this issue go away. In fact, it's going the other way. Mayor Wheeler is very aware. 15 years ago, we thought we had it all in downtown Portland, Wheeler told KOIN 6 News, but we also had a fatal flaw that we didn't see until the pandemic revealed it. And that was that cities that have housing in their urban core rebounded much, much more quickly than cities that don't have housing like us. I would say that might have some of it to do with it. You don't have people. Okay, so if you got more people, it makes the downtown core more walkable. There's more people walking around. But those people, just like the occupants of the buildings, they don't want to deal with the same shenanigans, the human poop on the sidewalk. They don't want to deal with tents everywhere. They don't want to deal with criminal activity, people bashing into the, main floor of said buildings. Everybody's got a security guard. 7-Eleven shuts down. My beloved 7-Eleven is just no longer there near the Justice Center. All of that stuff going on, all of the things that we know to be true of homeless encampments and, allowing a drug culture to just kind of take place. Because these aren't people that are just down on their luck for a couple of months and need some housing to get into. These are people making a lifestyle out of cheap drugs in a city like Portland, just like Seattle. So you start to deal with those types of issues of not a housing issue. It's a people on drugs, and it's a crazy people issue. You've got people with mental instability, mental issues. You put those two together with super cheap, super highly addictive drugs, and that's what you've got running around downtown Portland. So you start to deal with that and not the fact that, we don't have residential housing. Then you might get somewhere, because then businesses would be encouraged to come back and, deal with a downtown core that right now looks like Escape from New York with Snake Plissken. Mayor Ted is saying, housing is an issue because we don't have any in our downtown. I call nonsense. That is an issue, but it's not the one that's really putting Portland behind the 8 ball. It's because the downtown does not look inviting right now because of all the, the issues I just described. Gilligan's employer, Lincoln Property Company, owns buildings like the Pacific PacWest Center. He and others who spoke with KOIN 6 News have been talking with the mayor's office on strategies to bring more people downtown by eliminating roadblocks. Right now, it feels like everyone should just bury their head in the sand, then confront it and try to find ways to bring folks back into the core. And I think there's a lot of great ideas being circulated, but there needs to be action. It needs to be fast, he said. He suggests looking at the regulatory environment, while Sturgeon suggests streamlining permits. How about you just make your city look better downtown? How about that? How about you clean out the folks that shouldn't be there, living in tents everywhere willy-nilly? Oh, well, we can't do that because you've got, 700 or 800 encampments throughout the city of Portland. Like I've said, what you've got is a situation where the city of Portland is beyond knowing what to do. They are overrun with these elements of homelessness, of drugs, human fecal matter on the sidewalk, boarded up, commercial spaces. This is kind of outrun governmental leadership in Portland. And so the city of Portland is just sitting around kind of going, we got to do something. This is urgent. What do you, Mr. Developer, say? What do you, Mrs. Developer, say? What do you guys think? It's urgent. Got to do something. Need to do something. Got to do it right now. How about make the city more livable? What about that? How about getting the folks that are pooping on the sidewalks? How about getting the folks who are breaking into the stores all day long? How about we put them into jail? What about that? How about we do that? Nah, that's not compassionate. So that's why I'm kind of thinking, well, you are probably going to see some building foreclosures. The building and sewage permit process is lengthy and expensive. We're back to talking about ridiculous solutions that'll have really no impact, especially no short-term impact. Because building big commercial properties in downtown, why would a commercial developer in downtown want to build one of these bad boys if you got a 40% vacancy rate with commercial and things aren't looking up? I don't think you would. So the building and sewage permit process is lengthy and expensive, they said. Wheeler's office said they are drafting an ordinance to reduce the city's fees. Oh, that's good. I mean, so we're constantly talking about stuff that doesn't address the problem, which is you've got a massive number of crazy people and homeless people living throughout Portland, making it basically unlivable. Period. So no amount of permitting or anything else, people aren't going to want to live in downtown in the way it looks right now. Period. End stop. Wheeler understands there may be some blowback about this. Everything comes with blowback. But look, you have to focus on the goal. The goal is more housing. Is it? Is it really more housing? Because I just did a podcast. I did a podcast this morning about how a Skid Row housing authority is basically in the bankruptcy process. They own 29 properties. A couple of thousand homeless people live in their properties. They're in the bankruptcy process because they have older buildings that need a lot of renovation, a lot of major upkeep. And guess what? The CEO, interim CEO, says outright, hey, we got people with mental problems, with addiction issues. They come in, they tear these units apart. We get them the help they need with services. They come back, they tear the units apart. They come back a third time, tear the units apart. We can't keep up. So you got people that are wildly addicted to drugs and or have major mental health issues or a combination of both. And those things are not going to be solved by more housing in the downtown core, are they? No, you're not going to solve this. You might have a problem with not having enough residential housing in the downtown, but right now, that's not going to fix your problem. It's making the downtown more enticing, getting some of these elements out that you just so desperately need. But these elements are throughout all of Portland. It's like a blackberry bush that gets away from you. You just can't get it under control. Like no matter how much digging, how much clipping, and no matter how much pesticide you put on it, it just keeps going. So you can only sweep so much. And these people aren't going anywhere. And if you're not putting them into housing, and even if you do put them into housing, you're still going to have the same behavior, the same activity go on time and time and time again. And that is what is making downtown Portland a place where people don't want to lease space for their businesses. I don't know. Does that seem harsh? No, I don't think so. It seems pretty reasonable, right? The building and sewage permit process is lengthy and expensive, they said. Wheeler's office said that they are drafting an ordinance to reduce the city's fees. Wheeler understands there may be some blowback about this. Everything comes with blowback, but look, you have to focus on the goal. The goal is more housing, and if you want more housing, you need developers, and you need investors in that affordable housing, the mayor said. And what they need is to return on investment. It has to pencil out for them, or they won't do it. Well, I just got through telling you why, down in LA, it's not penciling out. Yeah, you've literally got a housing authority talking about the investors who on projects like this would run this type of thing. The numbers aren't penciling as is now. So let's do it with a new building. Okay, we'll see how that works out. I'm sure it'll be fine. Let's just go down that route. Crazy, right? Everybody talks about more housing. It's got to make your city look better, and then people want to come there. You got to take care of the underlying causes. One idea Wheeler's office is exploring to save downtown Portland is what New York City did in the early 1990s, converting commercial buildings to residential. That would produce more people living up above who go downstairs and spend their money at businesses. The mayor hired 2 companies that are doing a feasibility study, but Williams doesn't think this plan will work. I just don't see it. You've got major office buildings with large floor plates, he told KOIN 6 News. You can't convert those. It doesn't work. What he means is apartments and condos need windows. If affordably sized apartments were built in a large building, all the space in the center would be wasted. I don't know if you've ever walked into a big commercial space that's being built out. It's got tenant improvements, But I mean, you can have a massive interior footprint. I mean, thousands and thousands of square feet in a big, big building. And what we're talking about is only housing is really appropriate to build on the outside, because otherwise you're kind of living in, this dark, there's no windows, there's no egress, no way to get in and out. You're just, it's kind of one of those hotel rooms without windows or anything like that. Not real desirable, right? So whenever people state, just convert the old housing into individual units. Well, that's got issues, because older buildings, they require a lot of work. And when you've got homeless people living in them that rip apart the individual units, and I'm not talking about the elevators or the roof or the siding or the AC units or the electrical or the plumbing, they're just in there just ripping out the individual units. You put that on top of a building that already needs a ton of work. That's why you don't, I see a building over here. Why don't they just convert that? Well, for that reason, because it doesn't pencil. Now we're talking about new units. New units are not going to pencil in this environment either. They're just not. There's nobody there. I mean, build it and they will come. All right, we'll see how that goes. I wouldn't want to be the bank lending on this. So, and then, there's plenty of warehouse space. Just make it into housing. Again, you come back to the same thing. It's like the big commercial space. Only a little bit of that area would be appropriate for residential units. And so folks that aren't around real estate, that don't understand basic concepts like that, I know when you see a building and you think, it's vacant, let's just make it housing. It'll be great. This will be the best thing ever. There's a lot that goes into it, is the bottom line. There's a lot that goes into it. And most folks don't know, oh, okay. And if they did know, they'd go, all right, well, you basically have to create this type of housing from scratch. Otherwise, there's a high probability it can go sideways. Just ask the Skid Row housing, whatever it is down in LA, that's on the precipice of giving up their 29 buildings and going bankrupt, how it's working out for them. All right. So the mayor hired 2 companies. They're doing a feasibility study. I just don't see, you got a Mason office building. So all that space in the center would be wasted. A preliminary review from the mayor's office last summer identified 14 downtown buildings that might be good for conversion. All of them are smaller buildings. All right. Any building converted from commercial to residential must have expensive seismic upgrades, Wheeler said. His office is looking at whether those requirements can be eased. I want to be very, very clear that conversion is one of the many strategies that we would pursue, but it's not the magic bullet, the mayor said. Another issue is that Multnomah County voters embrace taxes to fight the homeless crisis and preschool for all. Portland now has one of the highest income tax rates in the country. I just talked about that in a podcast where Portland is basically right there with New York City in its tax structure, with the exception of New York City's tax structure impacting its wealthy. It impacts those who are making, I think it was $25 million a year and over, whereas Portland's impacts people making $250 a year and over. Seattle or Oregon's got some major, major tax issues. So that's another thing driving out kind of the upper middle class from Portland. Taxes. And then businesses are paying hefty taxes and they're not getting anything for their money. And to the point where Nike is like, oh, you know what? We need you to, City of Portland, we need you to do a strategic safety, a strategic security deal with us, because otherwise we don't feel safe operating our business in your city. I mean, yeah, you can't make that stuff up. So Sturgeon said that he is pushing a lot of people out and deterring people from coming back to work in Portland, because if they live outside the county, they can work from home and pay a lot less in taxes. So you've got that going on. A different idea is to make downtown Oregon 77th enterprise zone, or create similar conditions where investors would get tax breaks. So they're getting big tax breaks. Still, nobody wants to develop there because the overall look is so bad. So give all the tax breaks you want. But if it looks like, downtown San Francisco or downtown Portland, I'm going to say folks are going to go, yeah, that's a great deal, but thanks, but no thanks. That's what Hillsborough used to become the next heart of the Silicon Forest. I think we need a spark, Mark said. We're working on a waterfront pavilion for concerts down at the river place right in front of your building, KOIN Tower, and mine, which would be fabulous to have an amphitheater in town. Those things would be fabulous as well. But they don't get at the heart of the problem, do they? They don't get at what is making Portland look like a third world country. All right. Yeah. How many times am I going to say that in this podcast? I don't know. It's a bunch though, right? All right. Let's go with the optimism. Homer Williams was the least optimistic of the group who spoke with KOIN. Asked what it would take to revitalize downtown Portland, he said, I don't think that there's a path, frankly. All right. Somebody that's honest. Vanessa Sturgeon is cautious. My outlook is reserved optimism because we have a lot of things working against us. But we do have a more engaged public than I've ever seen because they are so pissed off. Gilligan said fixing this crisis comes down to numbers. If we don't want to admit and understand basic economics, then we're going to have some more trouble getting out of this current funk than we're in, Gilligan said. Jim Mark has the rosiest view. I'm an optimist, he said. He sees encouraging signs and recently leased some of the downtown office space. He points to the grand opening soon of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. All right, but how long has the Ritz been in production? How long has that been in construction? 4 years? Probably since before the pandemic, right? So when you're a big major chain, you don't derail a project midway through. You get it up, you get it built, you open it up. All right, where are you going to stay? Ritz-Carlton? Oh, great. Hey, what city? Portland. Oh, hey now. The Ritz-Carlton has a hotel in Portland? Yes, they do, and I'm staying there. All right. Well, yeah, let me know. Call me when you leave so I know you made it. All right. I'm very impressed with some of the mayor's staff and with city staff that's really putting a lot of time and heart in, to be honest with you. Okay. Some of you might disagree with that statement. I probably would. The mayor's office hired Gensler architectural firm and Eco Northwest Consulting to look at more properties. Okay. Don't really care. As I look at all these areas, Mayor Wheeler said, the work we're doing around homelessness, around livability, to clean up our city, around public safety, to get more officers on board and address specific types of criminal activity, I believe we have acted with urgency. Now, where I would agree is we haven't seen the results. We're starting to see the results, but it's way too early to stick a flag in the ground and declare victory. Well, some people might say that that's a little bit optimistic. I believe we have acted with urgency. What has been urgently done? You're doing sweep after sweep after sweep. And guess what? It's just that whack-a-mole game. Those people are coming up elsewhere and your criminal numbers are continuing to escalate, right? So you've acted with urgency doing exactly what? You're telling the police department, hey, take off the wooden, boards on your windows. It's not a good look. I can't say that, we're acting with urgency if you guys don't, strip away your safety platforms from the police department because we can't control Antifa in Portland. So now where I would agree is we haven't seen the results. I think we can all agree on Mayor Ted's statement there. I think we can 100% back up Mayor Ted on that one. We haven't seen the results. We're starting to see the results. Okay. I tend to believe that we're seeing things go in the wrong direction in Portland. Maybe I'm being short-sighted here, but it's way too early to stick a flag in the ground and declare a victory. I would agree with that as well. 100%. I'm trying to give Portland a break here. I don't think it deserves one because I think a lot of this has to do with leadership, and Portland got away from its leaders. It got away from its city council, who, let's be honest, had some horrible, horrible individuals who didn't know how to run their own finances, let alone an entire city. And you are dealing with the repercussions now. And building developers, building owners, commercial folks, people living, potential tenants, potential purchasers of downtown condos, they all know what the deal is. You can't get that past them. They look around an area and go, what in the F is this? What in the F is going on here? And you know what they say? I'm not coming back here. I'm not going to hold my convention here. I'm not bringing my tourism dollar here. This ain't what I signed up for. So I need to see that Ritz-Carlton though. I think they might have some introductory discounts. You're going to get the Portland discount. That means you get a room for how much is a room? I'm going to look that up. We're going to get to the bottom of that. The Ritz-Carlton, I need to go there. I need to stay there to say that I stayed at the Ritz before it folded, before it was the fastest Ritz-Carlton to shut down because of, not enough residential units in downtown Portland to make it viable or something. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.